Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Taste of Transformation podcast. If you like what you hear, please share with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and all podcast platforms at Taste of Transformation for more episodes like this. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or know of someone who would be a good guest, please reach out to us at tasteoftransformation@gmail.com. Enjoy this episode. I'm Charles Lewis, and welcome to Taste of Transformation. Our podcast interviews individuals who have been impacted by the criminal legal system, yet have successfully changed their lives. Our guests will share their stories of challenges and triumphs, their transformative journey, and provide insight on how they and others can change their lives as well. And we have these discussions over some of our favorite prison meals that we used to cook while we were incarcerated. My guest today is Anthony Lesli. Anthony Lesli is a business owner, 7-year business owner. He's also the producer and owner of Taste of Transformation. And welcome, Mr. Anthony Lesli. How are you, brother?
Thank you very much.
You good?
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I see you looking at the food. So let's talk about let's talk about the food real quick.
Okay.
So in Fishkill particularly, we were able to cook our own meals. And I gave you a call and said, "Yo, what's the one meal that you want to have on a show?" And you said the fried Jack Mac with some rice and some beans. So let's talk about why you chose this meal, the importance of eating a meal with someone, and then let me know what do you think about it. I did my best to use only ingredients that we had on the inside, try to keep it official. So we got the fried Jack Mac, we got the black beans with the peppers, the onions, the garlic, and we got the rice. Put a little bit of the crackheads soup seasoning in the rice. Yeah. So dive in, take a bite of each. Let me know what you think, and then we'll get into the conversation of the importance of meals.
I was waiting for this part.
Look at this one.
It's bringing back a little memories.
For me, the beans is hitting. Like, I love the Jack Mac.
Yeah.
But I'm a big bean.
Yeah, the beans is definitely, that's the flavor.
All right, so what you think?
You did good.
I'd have been able to cook for you on the inside?
No question. No question.
All right, so go ahead. What you about to say?
Yeah, you'd have been able to cook. This is bringing me back to a time when, when you eat with somebody, that's a sign of friendship, sign of agreement, and they cook for you. This is good.
Yeah,
and
being locked up, you didn't just eat with anyone,
right?
And so, but it's also, for me, I think it's important to have conversations over meals. I think it's kind of a lost art, sadly. A lot of people, when I came home, people are just eating in front of the TV, but growing up, my mom's made sure we sat at the dinner table.
Okay.
And we had meals over the dinner table, and that's when we spoke about our day, what happened, what we were going through, or heck, that's when we had the fights and the arguments. It was over the dinner table. It was over a meal. So I feel like that was really important to the show. So let's talk about the show. What first off, for you with the meals, why was that? It was my idea, and you agreed to include the meals on the show. Why did you agree to that?
Well, because the meals have a sort of like a cultural relationship, somewhat. And I come from down south, so my family's from the south. My father's from Alabama. My mother's from Maryland. And food holds a real endearing place in our culture, in the family culture. So when we went to prison and we was meeting up with people that we felt was really close to us, having a meal together was sort of like almost a reminder of where we were, as opposed to where we are in prison or home, a sense of coming together. So that's what made it really important. And it's a reminder that, we made some good friendships.
Yeah.
And sat down and ate together and looked out for each other together.
Yeah. I remember there were 3 people in particular, about 4 people in particular, who invited me to have a meal with them. Mm-hmm. And it was Cameron, Michael Love, my boy JC, and my boy Smiley. Rest in peace. Smiley's not he's not with us any longer. But I remember when they invited me to have a meal with them, it solidified our relationship. It let me know, like, oh shoot, all right, these are my peoples. Because they didn't just you don't just sit down and have a meal with anyone. Then I also knew that they found out that I can cook, so that was part of the reason why they brought me in. You know what I mean?
So they was recruiting you.
Yeah, they was recruiting me, but they could have recruited anybody. I wasn't the only person in there that could cook. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so, and then even to this day, like prior to Smiley, up until Smiley's death, we were still in contact with each other. I'm still in contact with Mike Love. Mm-hmm. He married me and my wife. Like, we still have that relationship. We still have dinner, with each other. And so I just felt like it was a good piece to add to the podcast, and so that the audience can see like how we ate and what we ate, what it was like, somewhat, kind of get a feel of somewhat what it was like for us on the inside. Like, these were the trays that we had, on the inside, and this is how they portioned it.
Yep.
So I thought it was a dope thing to do. Let's talk about the podcast.
Okay.
Tell me about what this is your baby. This is your idea.
Right.
Where did the idea come from? Or let's start with, why did you want to do a podcast?
Well, the main reason I wanted to do this podcast is based out of my actual human struggle. Just being incarcerated, changing my perspective, seeing a lot of other people that was incarcerated. Everybody incarcerated is not necessarily guilty of the crime, but you're incarcerated. So I'm not saying I'm not guilty of what I did. I take fully responsibility for all the actions I've taken, but there was no one speaking about the successes of people who went through that challenge, who was incarcerated, went home and became and utilized incarceration as a tool to propel them in society. So when I was incarcerated, I'll just think about among certain brothers, some brothers like Michael Love, Kanemu. We always discussed about, if I ever made it out, I wanted to tell that story. And I wanted to be able to tell the stories of those who was coming in and those who was outside supporting us that was incarcerated, but they was being hidden, or they were hidden from society. So that's how this whole idea came about, saying, first of all, it's going to help people who transform their lives. And there was a lot of men inside even before that I knew was transformed. Their behaviors told me they was transformed. What they was doing, they was transformed. They was ready for society, but society didn't know it because nobody was telling the story.
So speaking of story, let's talk about your story.
Okay.
You got locked up for 25 years. You were sentenced to 25 years.
25 years to life.
What happened? Let's talk about you prior to getting locked up.
Prior to getting locked up. Okay, I come from a full family, but my father died when I was 11 years old. And he was a strong provider for our family. That's how I saw him. And that's how I saw me, in the reflection of him. And when he left, I think it put in my mind some type of urgent. I had to take that place of him in my family, and I began to get involved with selling drugs for money, stealing stuff for money. And I felt like I had to grow up fast. In my mind, I felt like I needed to do something to help my family. So that kind of started my spiraling lifestyle.
So your father, was he involved in like the criminal lifestyle, or was he
No.
9-to-5 guy?
My father owned his own business. He was an Army, I think he was a sergeant. No, he was a sergeant in the Army. He was a mechanic. And he ran his own business. It was 8 of us. He took care of us. Wow. I never even, sometimes I think about that. He provided for us all.
So how did you, you said that you wanted to be like a reflection of your dad, right?
Yeah.
So where was the transition from you like living living lawfully, right? Your father, he was an entrepreneur. He had a job. When he died, what was it that caused you to, instead of following in his footsteps, to move into the life of crime?
Well, when my father died, I didn't know what I know about him now. As far as him being an entrepreneur, only thing I knew is that he was the money. He was the provider.
Gotcha.
He was capable of bringing the money. He paid the bills. He refused. My mother wanted to work, and I remember them arguing. And he's like, "Oh, wife of mine don't work," stuff like that. And he always had the finances. And as a kid, I never got a chance to really question him to see how he was doing it. Only thing I knew is that he was doing it.
Gotcha.
So, and at that time when I was growing up, and even though I used to go out and hustle, I used to carry bags, shine shoes, do all what I would call the legal things. But that wasn't enough. And it seemed like I needed more.
You said it was 8 of y'all?
8 of us.
Are you the oldest, the youngest?
I'm the 5th child.
So you're the 5th. So that's interesting because it's usually like the oldest who's like, yo, I got to step up because daddy's here or mommy's not making enough money. But it was you as the 5th child. Why did you feel the need to, like, that you had to be the person to take that responsibility?
My older brothers, I think when my father died, they was teenagers. So I think they was more absorbed into their lives. The difference why I thought, and I've always been, the way my mom's raised us, because she had us so fast. We like years, just 1 year apart, most of us. Somebody might be a year and a few months. So she did a thing with us when we was growing up. She put us in teams. So each one of us had like a partner. And so growing up, I was always looking out for my younger sister because that was my partner.
Okay.
So, and that's what I seen my father doing for all of us.
Okay.
Now, and in hindsight now, of course, I know he worked. That's why he wasn't there. A lot. He was a disciplinary. My mom would tell you, listen, any problem she have out of us, wait till your father get home. That was it.
So then how did you transition to the life of crime? Like, what was the first, you remember like the first crime that you committed what was the first crime that you committed and what was the mind frame that you had that led you to commit the crime?
Well, I think I started hanging out with the wrong crowds. I started hanging out with older guys.
And this was after?
This was after my father died. And I started hanging out with trying to figure it out, trying to figure out how to provide or how to be a man.
So when your father was alive, you weren't hanging out with the older crew like that?
I wasn't nowhere. I would, exactly.
I'm bringing that up because it just says to me the importance of having that male figure in your life. And so you were seeking what you had lost.
Yes.
And you went to the wrong
And I was starting exposed and the older crew, as opposed to really directing me to some more positive things, they was directing me to what they was doing. You know what I mean? If it was getting a radio, shorty, I'll give you $10 if you go get this radio for me, or if you do this for me.
Okay.
And that kind of spiraled into, once you get old enough and figure out the game, we call it the game, or who they're selling to, or where to sell stuff, or where to take stuff, that started the ball for me.
Okay.
You know, and so that's how I started getting into the criminal activity.
Okay.
And it kind of progressed as I got older. You know, that started for a little while and it stopped for a while.
So your mind frame was do what you have to do in order to take care of your family.
Yeah, to have some,
by any means necessary in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I know that you got locked up for attempted murder on a cop.
Yeah.
Right? So how did that happen?
And that was when I was selling drugs.
Okay.
And I was driving, going back I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. And I used to drive to New York and buy drugs and take them back to Baltimore and sell them because you can make more money. You can buy them cheaper here and go back there. And one night I was here to buy drugs, and it was on 158 in Amsterdam, Broadway in Amsterdam, in that area. And the police pulled me up. At that time, I was kind of selling a lot of drugs. I had my card, you know, I was kind of pretty
baller.
set.
Yeah,
I was balling.
Yeah, you was balling.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I got pulled up with the cop. And actually, you know, it took me years to find out, but the guy that I came the cop from actually set me up.
Oh,
so I had been coming back to see him, you know, and he set me up.
Okay.
And me and the police got into the scuffle. A gun was involved. I had a gun on me. And the gun got involved. And we got into a scuffle, and I kind of because I caught him by surprise, I kind of got the best of the situation and thought, it's weird that even in the act of the crime happening in a moment, I was thinking, not correctly, but thinking about what was happening. Almost like an out-of-body experience, and you it's happening right here, and you're thinking right here.
Yeah.
It's almost like the little, and I almost ran, but I just stopped and just let them take me. And that was a crime. But we hadn't gotten a confrontation with the gun. I had a gun, and the officers said I tried to fire, but the gun misfired. You know, and that's how I got the attempt murder charge.
Wow. Okay. And they gave you
25. Yeah.
But the gun didn't go off?
Yeah, but the evidence of like the shells and the whole ballistic type of thing, yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of that had to do also with my criminal background, them petty little things I was doing and getting caught for when I was younger. Can come back to bite you, those decisions. And you know, even though I know my mindset was I'm trying to provide for my family, once I got involved in the criminal activity, the excitement of being in the nightlife, the excitement of taking, it became something else. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that, you know, it was all about the family, because once I got involved in that dark walk, it was excitement in that walk.
Yeah,
and that kept propelling me to go back to it. Even if I had a job, even if when things was going right for me, you know, it was calling me, sort of like. So I kind of understand when people are faced with these circumstances. You got to make a decision. And all the time I made those decisions, and it led up to that decision.
That incident. Yeah.
You know.
So let's fast forward. Now you're locked up.
Yeah.
Do you remember the moment when you wholeheartedly regretted what you've done, not just that you got caught. Because like I remember, like I got locked up for attempted murder too. So I remember like when I got caught, it was like, damn, I got caught. But then there was a moment in time when I was like, yo, I really messed up. Like I almost took someone's life. Do you remember that moment, and talk about that?
The moment when I really came to terms with what I was doing,
what you did, and that you wanted to turn your life around and become a different or better person.
Yeah, initially I was angry, and initially I was in denial, because I felt that, I didn't attempt to kill a cop. I could have got away. Yeah. So initially I was angry. When I went to the court and I experienced that, I was angry. I mean, I cussed the judge out. I told him everything. I mean, it was like, you got 25 to life. I recommend no parole. I was like, suck my.
Yeah.
That's the mindset, because I was angry at that time. And I guess the time that it really dawned on me is when I stopped thinking about just me. And I started to think about my original attempt, what I originally got involved in this for. I got involved in this thing because I thought I was going to be helping my family. I lost my father. I thought I was going to be, a knight in shining armor. And I turned out my actions, I was being a villain. I separated myself from my family. I realized there's nothing I could do to help them if something happened. That's when it started to hit me that, well, what are you doing?
So you recognize that you lost sight of your original goal, which was to take care of your family. And even though you decided to go about it in the wrong way, your ultimate goal was to take care of your family. But going back to what you said in the beginning of the conversation, it was like once that money started coming in, that nightlife,
the power,
the power, the glitz and glamour,
the success of it, I lost sight of what it all meant.
Okay.
What was the purpose? They have a saying, right? It says, a person needs to have a goal that is worthy of them. And that takes a little coming to terms with, and takes a little truthfulness with yourself. But I lost sight of that. And in the spiral, I just began to do things that I thought was, power, or I thought was control. I thought I was strong. I thought I had the power to do them. I was an anarchy. I just did what I wanted to do. Basically, I lost sight of what I was doing it for.
And so now you're on the inside, you go back to what your original goal was. You're sitting in your cell. When and how did you begin to make the genuine steps to change your life? What did that look like for you?
For me, it's when I started to take really a deeper look at myself and my behaviors and what I was doing. And I kind of realized at that point that I had put myself in a position where I couldn't really be me, couldn't be what I initially wanted to be. And that was to be an example to my family, to be able to help if they needed it, to be able to help myself. And that's when I start to realize that I was really on the wrong track. Now, a lot of people may not say this, but people tell me today, and this is going to deviate just a little bit, because I want this point to resonate. People tell me today that you're so strong, you did it. You know what I mean? How'd you overcome 27 and a half years of incarceration and able to come home and still be successful and still be able to deal with society in a positive way. And I always tell, especially the young people who think that's a badge of strength, you don't know how many tears I cried. You don't know how many cells I filled up. Transformation for me was a form of really coming to terms with my behavior in a sincere way. And that started to break me down and make me see.
So I'm glad you said that because there's a saying, I'm quoting John C. Maxwell. He says that change doesn't happen by accident. It has to be intentional. Yes. And when he describes the intention, it's like you have to have a plan in order to change. And the metaphor that he gives for that is a garden. A garden doesn't just produce fruits. Like if there's a seed in the ground and it gets water, it just so happens to grow, it grows. But to have a successful garden, there has to be a plan. And then you have to work that plan. When you realize that you wanted to change and you needed to change, what were some of the tools that you used as a part of your as a part of your plan?
Well, the first thing that the first tool I used was what I keep trying to emphasize is really coming to terms with I really coming to terms with myself.
What do you mean by coming to terms with yourself?
I had to realize that what I was doing wasn't successful. My behaviors, I had to come to terms with the fact that I need to think differently.
Okay.
You can't just change. And it goes along with you saying about having a plan. I realized I needed a plan, but a plan that would take me in another direction, not the direction that I was going in.
And so when you say you needed to think differently, how did you alter your thoughts? What did you have to think differently about?
Well, I had to think about who I hung around, what type of information I was allowing into my mind. I started thinking about educating myself, just trying to uplift or to change my thinking about life-giving instead of life-taking. I think that kinds of holistically, because when I was thinking about in the streets and stuff, I didn't care. I started thinking selfishly and start thinking collectively, thinking about how I can be a positive example to my community, as opposed to thinking the community owed me something or just going rogue in it.
Okay. So it sounds like you, if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you had to change your values.
Yeah.
What are some of the values that you live by now that you weren't living by then, but that you adhere to?
Well, some of the values that I live by now, right now, I don't engage or I don't involve myself. I don't associate myself with negativity. If it's not positive, if it's not life-giving, if it's not uplifting, then I'm not a part of that. If it's about selling drugs, which is tearing down. If it's about stealing or if it's about abusing someone, if it's anything negative. So I turned wholeheartedly over to my spiritual self, my relationship with the Lord. That was key in helping me figure out, helping me stay and figure out what was really right and what was really wrong. Because sometimes, you can have good intentions and bad actions. So becoming more spiritually informed gave me some of the values that I could now judge what was good, what was bad. You know what I mean? If it's, when I use terms like if it was life-giving, or if it was something that was building people up or building the community up, it was something I wanted to be a part of. If it was something of tearing it down, it was something I wanted to be away from. So the people that I normally hung out with, if our conversations and our intimacies was about doing something negative, then I disassociate myself with them. Okay. And I was looking for people who was on that same path.
Okay. I know from you personally, and just from what you're telling us now, that you've made a commitment to become a better person, and that you decided you were going to stick to that. You were going to make better decisions. What is something that you use to make sure? What is something that you use as a guiding point to make sure that you are becoming a better person?
Well, one of the main things I use is, I try to be honest. I try to be sincere with myself and with other people. And
you need some water? Take some water.
I think what works for me a lot is that I'm honest with myself. And what I mean by that is sometimes we can be doing the right thing for the wrong reason, and that's what you get.
Similar to what
you
were trying to do with when your father passed away.
Right.
You want to take care of the family.
I learned from that.
Yeah, but you just went about it the wrong way.
I went about it the wrong way. I had opportunities, even with my success now, with my business and my prior friends, challenges to do things in an unethical and a secretive or unhonest way. And I just don't believe in that. I think it's what Albert Einstein said, insanity is what? Doing the same thing over and over and again and expecting a different results. I tried to do things dishonest or deceitfully, but honesty works for me. Being honest.
So, let's going deep about that, because it's not easy. It's not always easy being honest. Sometimes it's a lot easier to lie about a situation to get out of it, right? And you can get away with it.
Yeah.
But why do you decide to, even in the midst of hardship, even when being honest in the moment is difficult, why? Why is that better than lying?
Because the results of it. I mean, sometimes you can sit back and be silent and not, I think of situations like that. The results, because I know when I'm honest, and I know when I'm genuine, and I know when I'm consistently following the plan of being honest and being genuine and being truthful. Success has always been there. Whether some people say God's blessing, call it what you like, wherever you at. But the results is one of the motivating factors that have just had me committed. I was not, if you listen to everybody, that even on the inside, guys used to say, look at this guy here. He has a temp murder on a police officer. He's never going home. He's running all these programs, he's doing law work, but I stuck to the plan. I'm home. I've been home, 9 years? I have a business of 7 years. I've employed maybe up to 100 of returning citizens. I help people today. So, you have to stick to it. If you transform your life and you really want it, the results will come. They might not necessarily come when you want them to come, but if you stay committed, I'm a living example.
So would you say in the past 9 years that you've been home, that you live in, according to the principle of honesty, you've gotten better results and more success than all those years when you were being dishonest?
Yes. And I like to share something about that. You know, when I was being dishonest and when I was cutting corners and stuff, I thought nobody was going to help me. I thought I had to do it by myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm just using this as an example for me. You know, I'm honest, I'm upfront, and more people want to help me succeed and they want to see me succeed than they want to see me fail and see me be a problem. The problem with me is my selfishness, not reaching out. So I'm open with that. And it's weird maybe, but you know, people see when you're honest, when you're genuine. People see it. You may not see it. They look in your eyes. They listen to your words. They listen to your tone. They watch your body movement. You know, there's something about being genuine and open that's contagious, and people want to help you, but you gotta make yourself available. I thought about even doing this podcast when they had the vision of us. Am I smiling or am I sitting there acting like I did 30 years? I mean, I've come around people who look scary, you know, and we're really happy to be free, happy to be a positive example on a community. So I think whatever you feel inside resonates outside.
Right.
And if that's what you genuinely are, I think people can sense it, people can feel it. And so when you change your life, like I changed my life, and everybody was talking about I wasn't going to go home.
So it sounds like, excuse me for like getting over a cold. So it sounds like your relationships with people have improved because of you doing your best to live an honest lifestyle.
Yes.
Okay.
That's totally correct. What I thought is hidden, what I thought was hidden from me is right out in the open. I mean, sure, you get vibes with people that you might not get along with, but if you're in a room with me long enough, you're gonna see I'm sincere. You know, and that goes a long way. Yeah. So that commitment.
Yeah, I think that's important because we can't do anything by ourselves.
No,
like at all. We need people. We're social. I personally believe we're social creatures. You know, I believe that we were created by God, and we were created to have family, to have friends. And when you are being dishonest and you're not living what will be deemed or attempting to live a righteous lifestyle, it pushes people away from you.
Yeah,
which limits your success. It limits how much you can go out and do. It limits how much money you can make. If people don't want to be around you, if people don't want to work with you, you're not gonna make no money.
Right.
Or not as much money as you could make where if you're around people who genuinely like you, who genuinely want to be around you, who think you're a good person, like they love your company. And being honest with folks
and being genuine,
it brings them in. It draws people in. So I think that's a good point to bring up. I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay.
And speaking on that, because sometimes it's difficult when you come home. You know what I'm saying? You got those felonies on your back.
Yeah. And
you're trying to go out and get these jobs. It's getting a little bit easier now with the new laws that are being passed. But, man, it's very tempting to go back to living that old lifestyle. But you have shown, and you continue to show, what hard work and being honest can produce, the success it can produce. And speaking of success, let's talk about your success. So you've been home for 9 years. You've been running your business for 7 years, where you've employed over 100 people who or formerly incarcerated. Talk about your business. What do you do? Talk about your business.
Yeah. Okay. So
and eat if
no
you
problem.
want.
Yes. And I was thinking that, part of my success is because I realize I'm standing on the shoulder of somebody else. And that's why we're doing these podcasts now. So people can see that other people can do it. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to show you examples of people who, although we have been in negative situations, although we had what we call the lights turned out on us, we can turn them lights back on. But I started this business. I started a cleaning business. Actually,
What's it called?
It's called the A.L. Leslie's Janitorial Cleaning and Hauling, LLC. So it initially started off as just a cleaning business. I was doing apartment cleans, commercial cleans, and I started it by myself with, a car. And then I seen a need. Another need was for the hauling around apartment complexes, and I evolved it. I remember one time in my business, I was renting U-Hauls every day. You know what I mean?
That must have been tough because
every day. Listen, U-Haul would give me a free truck because I was renting them so much. They were like, yo, I just get 000. That's how much I was renting them. But I seen a need, and I started to address it. And so what I initially was cleaning. And now I contract out all my cleans. I bought like 3-4 trucks. I have guys working them. I can give guys opportunity. Women too. I have women employees that come home and need that help. And not all the people that work for me are formerly incarcerated people, but it's people that need help, and I give them help. So I started off cleaning apartments, cleaning buildings. And I progressed into now cleaning them, hauling them. I end up doing trash outs. For people who don't know what a trash out is, when people move out of their homes or apartments and leave stuff in it, that's called a trash out.
Okay.
So my team would come in and take everything out and take it to the landfill or wherever and dump it. So that's the type of work I'm doing now. We do moves. So we have progressed to where we will move. Because inside apartment complexes, I work on maybe about 7 or 8 apartment complexes. And you have to have your insurances, you have to have your permits, you have to have your to work on them. Right. And so I provide all that services. And what I end up doing is, say if someone's living in an apartment and the roof falling in the bathroom and they have to move to another apartment, they'll call me in to move them out. So I get paid for that. I clean up around the apartments. We get paid for that. And so it's just rewarding in that way. So, that old saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure?
Yeah, it literally is.
It literally, one man's trash is another treasure. It's my treasure. And I make that treasure help other people. And I feel honored because I know people are eating.
Yeah.
And I know these guys, and I've lost some guys.
Yeah.
They've gone back, especially the guys with drug addictions. But it makes me feel good because that's another option. That person don't have a gun in their hands no more. That person's not out trying to knock nobody in the head no more. That person, and then the impact is when I tell them my story, it makes it even more meaningful because then they're looking at somebody that's not talking it. And that's why we're here today. I'm not talking about it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
The story needs to be told. We're an example. I'm an example. And I constantly give that out to these guys and women.
So it sounds like you are doing what you originally set out to do when you were a kid. Helping your family. Now, keep it 100 right now. Keep it 100.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you making more money now on the legal aspect than you were when you were selling drugs?
Yes, in context. See, right now, I have credit. I can do what I want to do. If I want to get on the plane right now and go where I have my passport, I have money to do what I want to do. And it's not money I'm taking from nobody. It's not what I call dirty money. It's not in the abundance that I used to receive it when I was selling drugs. And the drug thing, I guess they call it the drug game now. It's totally different.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm richer. I don't have to look over my back. I'm happier. When I spend my money, I'm spending my money. I work for this money. It's legit. You know, I'm not just giving it away. I'm not giving it away for negativity. I'm helping people. I'm 1,000 times richer in my spirit. I'm 1,000 times richer in my pockets. Well, you know, maybe I don't have, I won't say it in my pockets because maybe I don't have the $15,000, $20,000 that I used to could just store away or give away, you know, and know it's going to be back in the next week or so. You know what I mean? By the drug thing. No, I don't have that type of money.
But you're not hurting. I know you're not hurting.
I'm not hurting.
Right.
I can do what I want to do. I can't do what I want to do, but I'm on track. You know, and I feel good every day because what I'm doing, it means something. It's helping somebody else. And what I was doing then, contrast selling drugs to providing a job. When I provide a job for someone, I took stress off that person's loved one, that person's responsibilities. I mean, I feel like I'm giving back to society a debt that they gave to me. Because, you know, so I'm rich in that. I feel rich in that. I feel safe in that. You know, I know I'm doing the right thing. You know, whereas when the drug, I didn't give nobody money for them to have. They gave me something back. If I was throwing out thousands of dollars to chicks or whatever it was, I wanted something back. Or I was setting you up for something to get back. Here I'm doing a service. I'm helping people, and I'm getting back the joy.
You feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
So what advice can you give someone who they're coming home, they want to start their own business, whatever type of business it is, or they want to get a job, whatever it is, but it's rough, right? That like going through that trench. What advice would you give them? What was your hold on your advice? What was your thought process like in those moments when things were really rough for you? What kept you going? What kept you pushing through? And what advice would you give someone who's currently going through that so that they don't turn back to the easy route?
I kept
the fast route.
I kept faith.
Okay.
I kept faith. I kept belief. And I kept pushing. There was times when I was running my business, and I tell my employees this all the time. You know, they go to sleep. They come pick up their check, and they go home, they go to sleep. And they worry about how much work we're going to have next week. I give them their check, and I go to sleep worrying about how I'm going to provide for 11 people so they can pick up their check. So it's a different level. But sometimes when I was faced with, when I was faced with challenges where my money was short, I didn't know, I just faithfully got up and continued to do what I knew to do. I continued to strive. Don't give up. My advice to anybody that's trying to start, anybody that's trying to, because it's hard.
Yeah.
You're going to have people come to you, and that's why I was talking about earlier about surrounding yourself with the right people, removing yourself from the wrong people, the different thoughts, because people are going to come to you. You know, family member came to me when I came home asking me to take them to New York. I know you know some people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All those things happens. But I encourage people, if you have a dream, if you have a desire to do something, to create something, don't give up. Have faith. I prayed every day. You know, I didn't know how it was going to come, but it came.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's key. I'm not telling you have to be anything, but I'm telling you have to recognize the good in God and give that back out to society. I believe the energy you put into the universe will come back to you. That's why I talk a lot about truth, about pushing that truthful energy out. You know, come to terms with your life. Come to terms with, if this is really what you want to do, nobody achieves these goals without having a strong, strong will and a strong belief in what they're doing. So you gotta push through, because that's just blocks in your way. Sometimes you can call it the devil in your way or negative forces in your way. But if you keep pushing, I would encourage everybody that's starting a business, if you don't know the answer, go to another business. Ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to research. Don't just give up, because the day that you're on the point of giving up, and I guess that comes from my faith. I don't know if it comes from overcoming the obstacles that I've overcome and the circumstances that I've overcome. I'm not a quitter. They got a saying that quitters never win, and winners never quit. You know what I mean? Don't quit. Don't quit. You on the verge, don't quit.
Yeah.
And most people succeed that way. And that's the way I've succeeded. And it gets to a point where if you stay with it and you get past that hump, the next one is going to be easier.
Yeah.
It's like a marriage. Marriages are not always just fun and play. You have times where you bump, where you differ, where you fight, where you struggle, and you got to see the good in it. And that makes me think of Job in the Bible, if anyone's familiar with the Bible, how Job was explaining to his wife that he should be grateful when he's blessed and grateful when he's unblessed. He found gracefulness in that. And that's what it takes. It takes, if you up against a wall, you got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And the more you get over the difficult things, like in the marriage, when you get over a difficult situation, the next one that comes, you look back at this one and say, we made it past that. We made it past this one. So, and that's how my business was. I made it past the little steps. I'm still here. I say this every day. Anytime I'm in a conversation with people, anytime I lose a contract, you know what I tell them? I'll be here when it comes back, because I'm not going anywhere. That has been part of my success. I've lost contracts. I have employees that's been with me for a while, and we down to like 2-3 contracts, because I stood up and said, no, you're going to have to pay me what I'm worth. So I don't care. I'm going to be provided for. So my advice for anybody that's starting their own business and going through struggles, that's just a test to see if you're gonna have what it takes. So you got to push through.
Leslie, I really appreciate. I enjoyed the interview. I enjoyed the conversation. You. I'm glad you enjoyed the meal.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, who's watching the show, go back, rewind it, play it over. I should have said this from the beginning of the interview, but have a pen and pad, because some jewels are going to be dropped. Write it down, reflect on it, meditate on it. Our goal with this podcast is to not just share people's stories of success, but to give you the tools to be able to implement it in your lives. And so eventually we're going to drop like the YouTubes and all of that. Drop notes, ask questions, let us know what it is that you got from it, what you didn't get from it, what you're looking for. This podcast is here to help people overcome. And for me, the biggest thing about this podcast is to help people to change the way that they think.
Yes.
It all starts with our thoughts. Yeah. It was your thought to shoot that cop that got you locked up. You know what I'm saying? It started with a thought, and then it became an action. And it was your thought to, hey, I'm going to live a good life. I'm going to open up my business. And then because of that thought, you acted on that thought, and look at where you're at now.
Yes.
This podcast wants to change the thoughts, change the mind frame of our listeners, and also to change the mind frame of the people who look down on those who are incarcerated. We can change.
Yes, and
it takes time. We can change. It takes time. We're not perfect, but there are plenty of us out here who are working really hard not to go back to a life of crime.
Yes.
And to become better people. We're out here, and we want this podcast to broadcast that. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being a part of our meal, A Taste of Transformation. Yes. And be on the lookout also for the recipes of the meals. And we'll eat with you next time.
Now, you did good on this mac and stuff, too.
Oh, thank you. I don't want to sound cocky, but when I tasted it, I was like, yeah, I did it. All right, how are we going to end this?
You know, I was in prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do know some people that could make you cook for me.
No, they can't. 'Cause that didn't even happen when I was in prison. No, they can't. They can't. Yo, I remember this big dude. I'm not going to say his name. We cool now. But everybody was scared of him.